Hey, good morning. It's OnePegMG. So I want to talk a little bit about market manipulation. There's a pretty major issue that I started kind of realizing as I was looking through this stuff with the inflating of pricing and trade volume. So, quick economic lesson. When you look at the economy, let's say it's the stock market, although there's hundreds or thousands, 10,000s of different markets of different commodities. Any type of commodity can be considered a market. The economies, those markets are all based on transaction counts, right? That's what is referred to as volume, the number of transactions that are made. And in order to increase volume, you have to have more people trading it. And now there's going to be major players and minimal players. But the ultimate idea is that when you have economies of scale, when you have a lot of people that are able to trade items inside of those markets, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of transactions, an individual transaction or the transactions of a small group of people would not have necessarily any effect on the game or the market in this case. It is not that case when it comes to Tarkov. Tarkov does not have an immense player base. It does not have an immense number of people playing the game. And because there aren't that many people playing the game, market manipulation is a much more easy thing. We saw this very commonly when it came to the early days of Bitcoin, for instance, where the majority of Bitcoin in circulation, some calculations were greater than 90%, were held by a rather small handful of people. So when it came to trading on those exchanges way back in the day, it was very, very easy to manipulate how the prices were going to go in any given market cycle. In the case of Tarkov, I would argue you probably have maybe 15 or 20,000 very, very active people. Maybe there's more, but I don't think that there's that much more, if there is, trading actively on the flea market on a daily basis. And I think that the majority of the people that are actually trading on the market are doing so from a consumerist standpoint, where they're getting things that are out of reach, or they're getting things due to more ease of access. As we have seen many, many times over, as we've been playing the game, when we go to the flea market and we look at things like ammunition, things get blown crazily out of proportion for the desirable items. This unfortunately pushes the availability of those items off onto people that have a lot of money, a lot of rubles, and start alienating the average gamer for this game. Compounded with the fact that now that the market is dynamic and is now influencing the traders themselves, the NPC traders, this is starting to be a horribly manipulated thing. Now, I got thinking about this, knowing that it's a dynamic market. And we know that the sale prices on trader resets end up modifying those costs. So in addition to the inflationary aspects then trickling down to lesser and lesser desired ammunition types, for example, knowing that those ammunition types are then going to grow and become out of reach, I found two issues with this. One, first and foremost, there is no built-in internal cooling off, quote-unquote, mechanic that is built into Tarkov that I have been able to see. It is entirely based on the ability for players to decide what the market is going to put value on an item, which works great as long as there is a very widespread, macro-sized economy. In this case, we do not have that. Second, that I noticed is the traders in purchasing items have a nearly unlimited supply of money. So when you're selling certain items back to the traders, you are introducing new money into the economy. You loot a player in a game, you loot a scav in a game, you sell that gun, that item, that piece of armor, whatever, back to the trader, you get rubles or US dollars or whatever in exchange for them. I think it's all rubles, except for Peacekeeper. But when you sell that stuff back to the traders, you get money in exchange, right? We know that. The problem then is what happens when the market is manipulated by a group or, a small or large group of individuals that actively decide amongst themselves that they are going to hyperinflate the cost of an item. So let's say that you have a 133 shotgun, or you have an SKS rifle that's 30,000 rubles. And you and the rest of the community members decide that you're going to buy a significant amount of those, let's say 5,000 SKS rifles. And then you sell half of the SKSs that you've accumulated together back on the flea market for, I don't know, 300,000 a piece. Let's say we go tenfold with it. In doing so, the trader resets look back on the average transactions that happened over the last 3 hours and then adjust accordingly, right? So let's say you're halfway through a trade cycle and you sell, 200 SKS rifles at 300,000 rubles a piece. And then that modifies the trade cycle a bit to where now the numbers are skewed. Between 1 to 2, I would say, trade cycles, you're going to see that trend, that number, drastically increase to some obscurely high level. In doing so, now you've exceeded the discount that the traders were giving you when you were selling those items back to them. So you could take the remaining SKSs that you have and sell all of those back to those originating traders where you bought the item from now for a profit. And you could do this with anything. Absolutely anything you want. Find an incredibly cheap item, and all you have to do is use a small group of people. I bet you could pull this off with 10 guys, maybe, or 5 guys. If you had enough of a monetary pool, you could absolutely pull it off. So when I see this, I start looking at who has the communities to be able to do this, right? You have a Tarkov trading Discord where you could easily manipulate that between the members of your community. And obviously the largest proponent or best candidate for anything like this would be any popular streamer that's got an audience of 30 or 40 people that are relatively proficient at the game and have a bit of a wallet, right? The issue here is that there's no cooldown, right? Or there's no market freezing. And I find that to be problematic because now you can have these anomalous trades that go on in the background from trading groups that have assembled to be able to wholly manipulate this the way that they're doing. And it will break the game because there isn't enough trading volume going on amongst the player base to counteract it. And there isn't any type of built-in cooldown while this thing still tries to get its kinks worked out. That's the fix. There needs to be some type of cooldown put on this. Or in the interim, you need to put fixed prices on the ammunition traders and leave them there with a relatively unlimited supply of ammunition. If you don't, you're going to see this cascade out of control as people learn how to do this more and more, and it will become something that is not going to allow the player base of the game to grow. It will force the player base to shrink because the items that people desire the most will be completely out of reach for all of them. All right, so anyway, I got a Twitter up over there. Come check me out on Twitter. I talk to people on Twitter all day long. I'm not big enough yet to where I can ignore tweets, so I'm just going to respond to everybody if you tweet me. Down there's going to be links for Discord and Twitch and that kind of stuff. Come follow me, come say hi, all that fun stuff. My name, again, OnePegMG. I know that I'm speaking conceptually. I'm sure somebody's going to do some math on this at some point and show that my theories aren't bullshit. But yeah, the way that it's looking does not look good. All right. Peace out, guys. Thanks.